welcome to another episode of Talking with Anomaly. Today we're going to be walking through some of the Mistweaver changes, heading out onto PTR 9.0.5. As you can see, we got some class changes right up here, and they are they're not uninspiring, ungrateful. They're not too exciting, at least right now. But we see some glimmer of hope here in Blizzard's design decision. So, real quick. What we're seeing today is two changes, sorry, not big changes, but two changes to some of the Mistweaver spells. First up, we have a mana reduction on Renewing Mist, going from 0.2 to 0.1% of base mana. And then also Vivify is receiving a reduction in its mana cost, going from 4.1 to 3.8% mana, base mana. So seeing just a general two quick changes to Vivify and Renewing Mist in reducing the overall mana costs or spell costs for these spells. This is an interesting change, we'll say, in terms of what Blizzard is looking at, and it's actually generally a good change. So first up, the actual change itself, not that crazy. We did a little bit of a quick math, right? Over the course of a 6-minute fight, the Renewing Mist change nets you maybe one additional Vivify, not crazy. And then the Vivify change, nets you about 1 to 2 additional Vivifies, just depending on how much you use it. Currently, Vivify, not a very, not a spell you're casting very much, particularly if you are using the Ancient Teachings of the Monastery legendary. But, with these changes, maybe Vivify sees some additional casting. So, as you can see, generally, the changes themselves are not too impactful in terms of current gameplay, but I did want to touch on one thing that I think is interesting. And that is that Blizzard is looking at the problem of Mistweavers, not in terms of just increasing spell power coefficients, making our spells hit harder, but looking at more from a mana conservation perspective. You look at these changes coupled with the PvP hotfixes that went in earlier this month, where they reduced the PvP mana cost of spells while in PvP. You're seeing sort of a theme here with Blizzard and sort of addressing what I believe has been a core problem with Mistweavers since the Legion rework. To give you guys some background, pre that rework, which was a major rework in terms of the class itself, Mistweavers, generally had similar mana, like unlimited mana levels as a paladin. With the old, Warlords of Draenor style mana tea, you essentially could drain your mana bar, refill it over 20 seconds, drain your mana bar, refill it over 20 seconds. And that was the gameplay. And our high spell cost sort of justified that sort of risk reward gameplay where you could use all your mana and then you could regenerate it. But while you're regenerating, if you use more, you had to interrupt that, it became somewhat of an issue. I will say the old mana tea probably slightly overpowered because there was no penalty for canceling in the middle of it. It used charges just as you use them. So maybe slightly more powerful than it needed to be, but Bunk mana cost was justified in the fact that you could essentially refill that mana bar very easily and very quickly. After the Legion rework and even into BFA and now into Shadowlands, we've seen that sort of high mana cost be a staple of Mistweaver spells, and generally speaking, it was offset by the fact that Mana Tea was good, or we did enough healing that our casting could be limited. In the current environment, though, our spells do not hit hard enough to justify their mana cost. So what you're seeing is Blizzard sort of trying to attack the problem, I think, from a different angle than just increasing our spell power coefficient rate. The interesting thing about the Vivify change is that they're walking back a major change they made during Shadowlands beta, which was they increased the mana cost of Vivify from 3.5% to 4.1%. It did at the time come with an increase in throughput and things like that, but that was a huge jump in terms of mana expenditure. And we saw that even today where, you want to avoid casting Vivify as much as possible. You want to leverage, Ancient of the Monastery, like I mentioned. You want to leverage Refreshing Jadewind, sort of anything you can that's more efficient than Vivify. So those are sort of the changes coming, the first set of them. More than likely, we'll expect some more, but it's a good first step from Blizzard in terms of identifying, what I believe is some of the root of the Mistweaver issue, which is just our spell costs do not justify, like we don't have the toolkit to justify our spell cost. We don't have any sort of regeneration. We have Mana Tea, which sort of helps from an efficiency perspective, but you want to spend mana under Mana Tea, and that doesn't help us regenerate mana in between usage. So, yeah, I mean, what are your guys' thoughts? What are your guys' thing? What do you guys think about these changes? I think in general, on the surface, they're very minor in terms of what they're going to change from gameplay and power perspective for Mistweaver. But I think as we look deeper in terms of maybe this is something Blizzard's looking at across the board with Mistweaver and our spell costs, maybe something interesting's out there. So let me know in the comments. Let me know, you can reach out on Twitter, in Discord, things like that. But let me know what your thoughts are. And other than that, we look forward to more changes. So have a good rest of your day, guys.